of the harvest gathering. "Lady Bryn," Mage Marna said, folding her hands together. "I am sorry to wake you, but we have much to do to prepare for your upcoming nuptials. Helena has come to take your measurements for your wedding gown." The colour drained from Bryn's face. As a girl, she'd never given much thought to what her wedding gown might one day look like. Of course, she'd assumed she'd marry a duke, as her sister had, or perhaps a baron or count, and that her royal wedding would be a formal 3-day affair amid the manicured gardens of Castle Mir, as was the custom. Instead, she was practically eloping at knife point. She dug the heel of her hand against the heartache that was blooming in her chest. Her poor heart had felt like a beaten and battered little bird ever since she'd been confronted with the impossible choice of love or duty, her happiness or her kingdom's safety. A voice in her head urged her to reject the wedding dress, to reject the whole thing. It was Rangar who had her heart, not Trey. For as noble and dashing as the eldest prince was, she had no desire to marry him, to sleep at his side every night, to bear his children. The thought alone made her blanch. But the harsh truth was, she didn't have a choice. The Barandor family wasn't forcing her into this marriage. Her own sense of responsibility was. The only way to save her kingdom was to unite the Baersladen and the Miran through political marriage. The dress, yes. Bryn tried to hide how her hands were shaking as she stood and shrugged off the shawl. Helena approached with a warm smile, though her eyes shone with pity. Everyone in the kingdom knew of Rangar and Bryn's romance. It had been the topic of gossip for months. So it was no surprise that the common folk were as shocked as Bryn to hear it wouldn't be Rangar's ring on her finger any longer, but Trey's. There, my lady," Helena said kindly. "We'll get you a beautiful dress. You'll be a gorgeous bride." Bryn couldn't muster even a pretend smile. The last thing she cared about was a dress when her heart was being torn in two. As the dressmaker began to take her measurements with a length of string, Bryn turned to Mage Marna and asked apprehensively, "Has a formal announcement been made yet about the wedding?" Mage Marna continued to fold her hands tightly, and Bryn realized she was just as tense and uncertain about this change of plans as Bryn was. The mage gave a tight nod. "Yes, word went out at first light. A wreath of maiden roses was hung in the village square. That is how we publicly declare royal marriages. We would usually send out messengers to all the villages of the Baersladen with word of the nuptials, and an invitation for all who can to attend. But in this case, we've decided to keep the affair small. Only those here at the hold and in the portside village will attend. After the wedding, we'll send out messengers to announce the good news." Mage Marna didn't specifically mention why they were waiting to send out messengers until after the wedding, but Bryn knew. They didn't want to risk word of it reaching Rangar, who was fighting at the border of the Baersladen. He would move mountains to ride back and stop the wedding if he heard. "Of course," Bryn echoed hollowly. Helena finished taking measurements and squeezed Bryn's shoulder. "I'll be back tomorrow for a fitting." As soon as the seamstress left, Mage Marna paced the length of Bryn's small room. "The ceremony will be held tomorrow, just before sunset. We've requested that the castle tradespeople stop all other work and focus on constructing a wooden stage in the village square. The kitchen workers will bake all night to prepare for the feast that will follow the ceremony. And lessons have been suspended today and tomorrow for all children.